Good evening, everybody. It is Thursday night and we are racing once again here at SARCO. It is Thursday night, which means we are racing a Assetto Corsa, and we are at Paul Ricard, and as you can see, the rain is falling. Pretty much what we're experiencing here in Johannesburg. Massive thunderstorms here this evening. Just having a look at the viewers that have joined us. We've got Johan VDV saying yo SARCO nuts. Yes, I love that. I think we might have to make a t-shirt out of that. Good job there, Johan. Stain, he's saying good luck, gents. A squat gat Jakesy. And in the commentary box, just sitting there in limbo at the moment, I do have Tyler Scott with me. Tyler, how are you this evening? Looking forward to some racing around Paul Ricard. Well, yes, Dylan, thank you very much for the invite. Just sitting here waiting. I'm just joking. I don't know where Tyler is. But Stanky, if you want to come and jump in with me, come and hoy. The stream is running, so you're able to see everything. A format for this evening is each driver gets one hot lap and flyer, and once they have that up and running, then that will put them in terms of the qualifying. 13 drivers enter this evening. Unfortunately, we do only have 8 smaller field here tonight, but after this race, only 2 more races left of the season, and that will be the end of the SARCO racing for this year. We will have 1 or 2 special events leading up to the Christmas time. So guys, just check out our website for those upcoming events. But news is that this coming Saturday we do have a SARCO Invitational team that is going to be racing in the F400 Endurance Series. So looking forward to seeing some of the SARCO drivers behind the wheel of an actual go-kart. We've got Stephen, Rudy, and a newcomer who's not really an online racer but has decided to join us, and that is Dale, racing in the Bravo tier kart. So I was just reading a message here from Stan saying he'd love to join, but he doesn't have a room for himself where he can join without any background noise. No problem, Stanky. As long as you just help us in terms of those comments throughout the race, we'll definitely share them with everybody. So currently Jake's 202.8 is the fastest time. We do have Duncan who has gone 1.2 seconds slow. We are following Ati at this stage. Quite a technical track for the circuit that the guys are currently racing on. A total of 15 corners around here at Paul Ricard, and very technical, and your exit speed is one of the most important things at this track. We do miss out the turns 8 and 9, the Montreal corners, where they do have those corners on the F1, but here at the GT3 we do not cover that part. So Ati has gone by, and he's 2 seconds slower. Currently out on track is Memo, and I see that Stan has joined us. Good evening, Stanky, how are you?
Fine, and you, gentlemen?
Paul Ricard in the wet, what are your thoughts?
That's going to be interesting. It's a track we have to have the balance between downforce and straight line speed. So with the weight coming in, it's going to be interesting to get the setup just right. So that's going to be a good race, I think.
Yeah, we are looking at the next 10 minutes, and it does say that there is rain scheduled for the next 10 minutes. But in terms of the time of the race, is the time is race time starts at 2 o'clock, which is basically, inverted commas, 45 minutes away from here. So unless this rain stops in the next 45 minutes, the guys will be starting in a wet race, and that's just due to the weather mapping that it does run on a cycle over a couple of days, so depending on where it starts determines on where the rain will come. So very, very exciting. It does just add a little bit of that unsurety in terms of when the rain is coming, which keeps everybody on their toes.
Well, with the rain falling, running a full downforce setup is your first option. Unless somebody spins around, Rafiki just went around.
Oh, that was a memo. Unfortunately, just losing that rear. We did see him. He did say he was just battling to keep that rear down. So it does look like he is still fighting just a little bit there with that car.
The question is, has the guy set up the cars for the wet, or have they set up the cars for the dry? That's because the dry setup will not work particularly well on a wet track.
Well, the practice server was definitely wet, so I'm sure the guys would have spent a lot more time in the wet as they would in the dry. And we are definitely going to see what will happen later on, whether they've put the practice in the wet or whether they have set those cars up for the dry.
Yeah, we have to keep eye on tire temps and fuel loads, because that will differ as the conditions change on track. So it's going to be interesting.
So I must say that Paul Ricard wasn't really one of my favorite tracks, and that's purely because it just took quite a while to just get used to the flow of the track, because you always feel like you're working. There's a few long straights where you can just compose yourself. But if you're going through to turn number 1 and 2, it's a quick left into a right-hander. It's a very short straight into turn 3, and then it's a right, left, a long right into a little kink through Minstrel. So turns 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 come at you very, very quickly. Then you do have the back straight, which essentially takes us into turn number 10. And through then a fast right-hander sweep into a closing turn number 11, and then you all of a sudden changing directions into turn 12, sweep through 13, tightening into 14, and a hairpin in 15. So you're constantly on the wheel.
What's interesting on the last sector is you'll probably find that the guys will be running different lines. It's one of those circuits where you don't have a specific line that works. You can get away with running different lines. It's going to be interesting to see which lines the drivers use.
Yeah, I have found myself trying to take quite a tighter line into turn number 11, because what would normally happen is that you see that the guys would tighten up on the inside, try and dive you, where all you're doing is you're just starting wide and closing into where that corner tightens up, and generally drivers do get caught out there.
I'll go to the back.
Definitely, and also driving the curbs with the MR cars and the Porsche specifically, they don't enjoy riding the curbs, and I think the Mercs particularly will be strong on the circuit because of its ability to drive the curbs, and also it should have a bit of a straight line advantage, specifically against the Porsche.
Yeah, without a doubt, it is definitely going to be Mercedes-Benz Central out in front there. We do see that Sheldon is in an Audi, and he got himself into 4th place. And we just know that Sheldon is quite capable of that with that Audi. So I'm looking forward to see whether he is able to get himself closer to those Mercs in front of him.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see with the snap oversteer in the DNA of that Audi. It will be interesting to see if he can actually manage the tire temps on the back, because I can only imagine the car sliding quite a bit on these tricky conditions.
So, guys, that they are going to be accelerating away, but they are going to be doing one full formation lap. And that's the reason we've done that is just in case there are penalties that need to be served, that the drivers are able to just change their position. And that is why we've done it. And also, by doing it this way, we've found that our first corner incidents have been reduced dramatically, which has allowed our drivers to just get on with the racing and not be taken out in those first couple of corners.
Yeah, I hope they keep it clean in the first corner. It's quite a section there. But I can tell you, watch out for track limit penalties on this track. This track is quite unforgiving in terms of track limits, and with these wide open curbs, the guys tend to cut the corners to pick up lap time. So I think that some guys would be punished with cutting corners here.
And what Stein is talking about is that you do get 3 warnings if you do continuously do that. You do get a drive-through penalty, and if you get another 3, you are forced to go into a 30-second stop and go, and that's definitely just a complete waste of time. So the idea is to stay within those track limits and keep your race nice and tight. And so you can just see how long that back straight is, absolutely incredible. And then you are basically throwing it here into turn number 10. And normally it's not even a touch of the brakes, it's just a foot off, gear down, hope that car is settled, and then back on the power again. And then into turn number 11, you can just see how much that tightens in the end. Gav, even though he was going a bit slow, you saw that he understeered there.
Yeah, it's one of the few tracks where you can actually run into the limiter. If you have a low downforce setup, if you can get that exit onto the back straight perfect, you can bounce off the limiter coming at the end of that into the braking zone. It is a massively long straight.
So there, Gav just giving that final instruction, or Jake's just saying to everyone, okay, we're going to be just going to single file, and they will then cross the line, and we will be racing here, Paul Ricard, around number 6 of our German Assetto Corsa series.
I can see Jakes is not on the back of Gavin. He's leaving a little bit of a gap. I don't know if he's making a strategic call to get a bit of a run up on Gavin before the light goes green.
There we go. Out. Gavin has called it, but we do have a rule here is that you're not allowed to overtake the driver in front of you unless you have crossed that start-finish line, because technically if you do, you've actually started your race out of position. So it is something that we have been quite critical of.
That's good to know. Although what the people sometimes do is they leave a little bit of a gap so that they can start flooring the throttle before the line actually goes green, because you've got that 70 kph speed limit that you need to maintain before the light goes green.
So that did look a little bit, I'd say, that everybody did follow the rules there, so I'm very happy about that. But now we see that Gav is starting to pull away, but there's a bit of a gap between 4th, 5th, 6th and 7th place. And it looks like it's the battle of the Audis, but here that we do have Ati in that 88. He's trying to get himself ahead of Sheldon. And if that is the case, then it will definitely be Mercs out in front, Audi's next, and then the Porsche.
The Porsche will definitely have a disadvantage on the straights here. Not the quickest car in the straight line. But it should have the advantage through the rest of the lap. It is a good handling car around here.
So I see James on the rear of Ati, and Ati just getting a little bit slow on that exit there. James looked like he had to just back off out of that. He was closing that gap quite drastically. But I do think that Ati is probably being held up just a little bit by Sheldon in front, which has allowed James to put that pressure on him.
Yeah, and you can see the guys following different racing lines already. Trying to get a better run into the corner.
You can see there Sheldon, a little bit of an understeer there. So he is now dropped down that place, which has now allowed Ati to move up into 4th place and James now into 5th.
Yeah, he lost 2 places there, unfortunately. With the rain, it's difficult to get the front to grip once you start understeering.
Dylan, something is, I see Gav as, I see Gav is into the pits. So it looks like an early pit stop there for Gav.
Oh,
trying to get out of the traffic, and yeah, could be a
But Gav was out in front, so that's pretty interesting that he has chosen to do that. We'll have to see how that plays out. Unless Jakes was putting some pressure on him, or
Can it be that he maybe switched over to slicks? Maybe the track can be in that zone where you can actually run some slicks and actually run quicker lap times than the soft, than the wets, depending on tighten.
We'll definitely have to keep our eye on that, but I don't think so, because we're still seeing that the rain is falling, and we are showing that it is wet. And if we look at the next 10 minutes on the top there, is that it's going to go light drizzle, and the rain is going to get a little bit harder. So if he has gone to slicks, I think he's definitely gone the wrong way.
I don't see a lot of spray coming off the back of the cars. Because what we've found sometimes, although it's raining, the track is not really that wet, and then you tend to overheat the wets, and it's actually better to run the slicks, but at a higher pressure, and you actually end up doing better lap times by running slicks on a semi-damp track or a not so wet track.
No, I do completely agree with that. But that little indicator on the top there definitely showing that there's going to be some more rain coming, so there might just be another curveball still to come.
Yeah, I'm guessing. Yeah, I don't know if you want slick, but I think that's the only thing that really makes sense why you would be putting so early in the race. You might struggle with tire temps. The wets might not be wet enough.
So out in front we do have Jakes, and then in second place is Duncan, and I'm sure he is very happy with where he currently is. We did see a little bit of a mishap for him a couple of races ago off the line. Planted his foot and forgot that there was a full formation lap, and ended up taking out Ronaldo and Pete. But here he is up in second place, and 2.2 seconds behind is Ati. And Ati then being followed by James, who's followed by Sheldon. We saw him have a little bit of an understeer. And then a newcomer, SAF1, that's Grimjaw. Sixth place there for him. We just hope that he does get quite comfortable with the cars. He did join with an Audi, where this is a German series, so we had to ask him to please just change his car, and he obliged by going with that very, very nice looking grey and a lime green livery. I do quite like that.
Yeah, it does look good.
Hey Dylan, he joined with a Bentley.
A Bentley?
And then changed to the Audi.
No, wasn't he he was in an Aston.
Or an Aston, and then changed to the Audi.
Correct. Well, here he is still putting pressure on Sheldon, and I know that that Audi is the car that Sheldon drives himself. Just checking some comments coming through. Scott Hardeman, haven't heard from you in a while, boy. I don't know how you're doing, but he's saying, evening chaps, I hope the family is well. Please send regards to your dad and your son, your dad and your brother, and to your mum as well.
Well, Jake is doing very well up front. He's got a 5-second gap to Springbok after cutting these. And I think Jake will be very comfortable in that Merc in the rain.
Just want to jump to, so Gavin's now moved himself ahead of Memo. So that's 23 seconds is that gap now. I just wish we could see the lap times, because then at least we could see how he is running compared to some of the other drivers. Let's show do that. That is it's negative.
Dylan, I wonder if he didn't, he maybe started with quali setup and forgot to put the race fuel in.
That's
quite
possible.
Might be the reason why you went to the pit so early.
Quite possible.
If I look at the time he spent in the pits, surely that would have taken longer.
Yeah, I don't know. thinking of why he would pit so early.
Well, just jumping to this battle of the Audis and an absolute crack of a battle here between James, Sheldon and Grimjaw. So James,
Already had a hard year.
and so far everyone's keeping it nice and tidy, applying that pressure, but not making any dramatic moves or any dramatic gestures. So far so good. A little look to the inside. Sheldon just tightens up the line, sees him coming as he goes into turn number 15. So will there be an opportunity going into turn number 1 now? Whoa!
He lost the rear end and ran into the wall. Was he going for the pits?
I
Looks like he was
don't know.
aiming for the pits.
I don't know what happened there, but he definitely got that wrong. So Sheldon now has had to take a forced pit. And I think he might have saw it too late, turned in, and the car just understeered, and it put him straight into the wall. But I see
He's
that
going to have to pick some damage as well now.
Jakes has also now gone into the pits. So he's now come out, but I want to see how close Gav is. So that's Gavin, who's actually ahead of Jakes, because there's Jakes now going past at the same corner. So Gavin, whatever's happened there, he's come out ahead of Jakes.
Is there a way to see what tires they are running on or not?
Not really.
That's a pity. It would be nice to see what tires they're actually using at this moment.
So there goes Gavin, and there's Jakes in the background. And we are expecting some heavier rain in the next 3 minutes.
I can't really see spray coming off the car, so I wonder if the guy's on it fitting for slick tires.
So there's still the battle of the Audis happening here for 3rd and 4th place. And the Grimjaw just seem to be just using that line a little bit better there. You can see taking a much later entry, but then he's able to get that power on, which is allowing him to just close that gap up ever so slightly. A little bit tighter now as he goes through turn number 14, then hot on the brakes, get that car rotated through 15. So he is definitely looking the more comfortable of the two drivers.
Yeah, he's going to start pushing on the pressure in the next lap or two. He's slowly catching up.
Such an amazing sounding car. Really love it.
I love that first corner. If you get the lines just right, it's such a joy to get out of that section. I love this track.
So let's see if you see a much later entry, late apex there for him, which is now going to allow him just to cut that exit. Now he'll run up on the outside of the curb and it'll flick through turn number 7, and hopefully get himself in that slipstream.
You can see he's using so much more of the track than Rafiki is. Oh, did they make contact? No, I don't think they did.
I just think it was a little glitch. But now Grimjaw has got himself on the inside. He is going to need to just squeeze to the outside a bit just to get him a better entry into turn number 10. There he goes. So he is ahead by quite a bit. And you don't want to run wide there because those little battles on the outside there, that is your track limits. But James is having a little come back there, and you can see how that corner just tightens up, and Grimjaw was able to keep himself ahead of James there.
It's very, very, very tricky to get the setup just right there, because you have to attack that corner without losing the rear end, but then again not understeering wide out of that corner. So it's very important to get the car settled through that section.
Well, I'm not sure if Grimjaw's raced the Audi before, but he changed this car just before this race. Actually I think, during
Good
qualifying.
job.
Yeah,
And
just
doing a
before the
good job in that
qualifying.
Audi.
He definitely is putting on a lot of pressure there.
Not the easiest car to drive in a Assetto Corsa, so the fact that he changed it before the race and he's doing such a great job in the wet is commendable.
Yeah, maybe he found the right car.
Maybe.
So we are now getting to the time of the track, time of the race where they are predicting some heavier downfall. The track is still saying that it is wet, and this is where I'm sure a lot of the guys have practiced, and this is where their setups will now start coming into play, as opposed to having those almost mixed conditions, which is what we were seeing earlier on.
Yeah, it seems it'll just keep getting more wet. I see the next one, it's plus rain on 3 and 10.
Definitely. So it is going to get wetter and wetter as this race goes on, and we are approaching the halfway mark with 4 drivers still needing to pit, and our current race leader is car number 99, so that is Duncan, and he has had Ati chasing him down for the last couple of laps, and doing an absolute great job just keeping Ati at bay. And I do remember last season when I was racing in Assetto Corsa, I had Ati chasing me. We were at Mazzano and he was in a Lexus, I was in the Porsche, and he kept closing and closing the entire race. And I was quite fortunate to hold on that place. I think I took a third for that race. So Ati is an absolute formidable opponent, and I'm pretty sure that Duncan will be relishing at this competition.
Yeah, it seems Duncan's doing really well in that Mercedes as well. Sort of found the sweet spot for it.
And that is the thing, is that once you find the car that works for you, so I have driven every single car, but for some reason there's just something about that Porsche that just works with me.
Doesn't seem to be working with Veritas at the moment. So maybe you need to spend some time with him there, Dylan.
So that is Memo in his signature purple. He will always have purple on his car no matter what. And it was actually quite a surprise to see a little bit of yellow coming through on his liveries.
He's about to get lapped, yeah? Hopefully the nerves should close down on him gradually. Gamer is actually closing down on cutting beef, by the looks of it. At the beginning of the lap it was 2.1 seconds, the gap is now down to 1.5. So we should keep an eye on that battle as well.
Yeah, 100%.
And it seems Grimjoy is also catching up on him, because he's made a gap between himself and Peaky of 3 seconds, and only 6 seconds behind Springbok, so it seems he's closing that gap too.
So will Memo come into play here as Duncan approaches to lap him. But then Memo, you can see him on the outside, blue flags being waved. But and Duncan are not quite close enough to see a little flash of the lights to say, out of the way son, here I'm coming.
You should probably get out of the way on the main
Yep.
straight.
No, so he actually just went straight off and just got out the way,
okay.
and allowed the 2 now race leaders to go through. But 1.18 seconds is the gap now between Ati and Duncan. So still 20 minutes left to go. Will Duncan be able to hang on for the next 20 minutes? That's the question.
Fair play to Veritas to get out of the way and not impede these 2 guys chasing.
But that's just the thing. If you know that you're not in for the battle, there's really no point trying to fight them. Just get out the way, let them get on with it. and a 1.1 second, and I'm pretty sure that Ati is now getting the benefit of that slipstream down that back straight. So we'll see when they cross these splits. And now, what is that time looking like? So where it was 1.16, so he's managed to make up 0.3 of a second. So Ati's definitely now starting to close up onto the back of Duncan.
So the pressure is going to start piling up real soon. Do we have any more? Oh, we got the first 4 guys that still need to do the pit stop. So unfortunately, these guys will not be leading the race when they go pit.
No, because we can already see that that Jakes and Gavpig are already starting to close up into the back of them. So it's just about over 15 seconds is that gap there between Gav and Duncan, who we're currently watching. So once they go into the pits, we know that that pit stop is close on about 20 seconds, 22 to 23 seconds. So that time will definitely be added on.
So if you look at it, you've got a net lead for Gavin and Jake's in second place.
So that gap between Gavin and Jake's now 7.6 seconds, so that is also starting to increase.
Yeah, I've been keeping an eye on it. It's been increasing a little bit each lap. Looks like Gavin has a slight pace advantage over Jake's. But when Jake's came out of the pits behind Gavin, I think that gap was about 4.5 seconds.
So Gavpig now starting to catch up to the back of James. So while they are racing for position, Gav is technically ahead of him because James hasn't pitted, but now I'm sure that the straight line speed advantage of this Merc will allow Gav to close up very quickly into the back of James. So that was just about 1.1 second, and you can just see how quickly that time closed up there.
That's a full second up until this point of this lap, which is insane.
I was just watching the nose of that Merc when it was going through turn number 11, and it just looked like the nose was a little bit twitchy. It was just going left, 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 and then, so I wonder whether he's also getting a little bit of that understeer, then all of a sudden it just bites again. And just, very similar and crazy experience at Zolder, where you get that understeer, bite. We see that Grimjaw is now going to the pits. And James now really fighting hard for this position. And even though he is a pit stop down, they are still fighting for a place, so he is definitely entitled to have the battle. But at the end of the day, it's actually really not his battle to fight, so it's a very interesting scenario.
But that's the thing, I think the people race for those battles, and that's what they're here for. So I think he's enjoying this stage of the race at the moment.
But now this is where the dominance of the Merc will definitely show. And I'm pretty sure that Gav wouldn't mind the competition, because he just knows that once he gets onto this back straight, that he will have the power just to whip past James.
Let's keep an eye on this, because while these two are battling, Jake should be coming in closer. They're really close by 2 seconds. So let's keep an eye on this.
So James fighting really hard, holding that inside line as Gav Pig now he does the cutback, trying to go on the inside. So James has been able. Yep.
But it looks like the Audi has got the Mercs pegged on straight line speed at on the end of the straight there. It looks like the Merc doesn't have an advantage on the Audi at the end of the straight.
Yeah, that is quite true, because they were almost just going about the same speed, and James was able to just set himself up on the outside and take the corner as if he was on the racing line, as that rear definitely lights up as James got into the power, and we can see that Gav just backed out of that as well. But now Gav applying that pressure once again on the back of James. He's going to have a look into turn number 1. Just a little show, just unsettling the driver in front of him. So Gav must just set himself up for that back straight once again. But he is all over the back of that Audi. There's a little show, decides that that's not the right time to go and put the